All right. Want to become a marine electronics technician? Well, get ready to dive deep because we're going to chart the course of this unique career path today.
Yeah.
We've got our stack of RoleCatcher guides right here, and they are jam-packed with info.
Yeah, it's not just about, splicing wires on a rocking boat, although that is definitely a part of it.
Right.
These guys really show that this career is as much about problem solving in high-tech systems as it is about, you know, loving that open sea.
Okay, so I'm picturing like a cargo ship sailing off into the sunset, but instead of like that old salty dog with a wrench in hand, there's a tech whiz surrounded by screens. Am I close?
You're getting warmer. Picture this. You're on a massive vessel miles from shore,
Mm.
and suddenly the radar system decides to just quit.
Oh, no.
A storm's brewing, and the captain, he needs to navigate around it.
Right.
What does he call? Not Ghostbusters, that's for sure.
Okay, okay, I get it. It's the marine electronics technician to the rescue. These guides, we're calling them the wizards behind all the electronics on a ship. But what does that actually look like?
So think of it this way. Everything electronic on that ship, navigation, communication, even that coffee maker keeping the crew awake, that's their domain.
Okay.
They install, maintain, and most importantly, troubleshoot all these systems, often in really challenging conditions.
So not your average electrician then?
Definitely not your average electrician. Remember that sample blueprint in the guide?
Yeah.
The one that looked more like the control panel of a spaceship than anything else.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, that thing made my head spin just looking at it.
Exactly. Marine electronics technicians need to not only be able to decipher those blueprints, but actually understand the complex electrical systems and troubleshoot on the fly when, a vital piece of equipment decides to just stop working in the middle of the ocean.
Talk about pressure. And the guide definitely does not shy away from the tougher sides of this job. Long hours, sometimes having to deal with hazardous materials, constantly needing to learn as technology changes. It's a lot.
You're right, it's not for the faint of heart. But what I find really interesting is how the guide connects those challenges to a bigger trend. See, with automation becoming more prevalent in the marine industry.
They're going to need these skilled technicians even more than before, right? It's almost like the more complex the systems become, the more you really need a human to step in when things go wrong.
Exactly. And you know what that means? It means high demand, competitive salaries, even a level of job security that's pretty rare these days.
Okay, now those are some serious perks. But let's be real, you got to really enjoy this type of work to do well. What I thought was really interesting was how the guide highlighted a clear career path. It's
Yeah.
not just a job, it's like a whole career trajectory.
It's laid out like a roadmap, which
Yeah.
is like insanely helpful if you're thinking about this field, right?
Yeah.
You start as an entry-level technician. You're getting your sea legs, so to speak.
And probably blowing a few fuses along the way. I can just see it now.
We've all been there. But seriously, that entry-level stage is super important. You're assisting with installations, learning from the more experienced techs, really just getting a feel for like the day-to-day of this job.
And that's where I'm guessing those soft skills come in.
Oh, absolutely.
The guide talked about how teamwork and communication are just as important as knowing the technical stuff.
Oh, yeah. You're working in close quarters, often under pressure, with a team that relies on each other. So clear communication, active listening, being collaborative. Those are essential. You can't be a lone wolf out here. Yeah, you're right on the money there. It's not just about knowing the technical stuff, right?
Right.
Like the guide had this story about a junior technician who almost caused like a major system failure because they were too afraid to ask a question about a task.
Oh, that's a rookie mistake you don't want to be making out there.
Yeah.
But speaking of junior technicians, what's next on this career ladder?
Yeah, so that junior level is where you start to earn your stripes.
Okay.
You're not just fetching tools anymore. You're actually taking on more responsibility like installing, repairing systems, the real deal. But you're still under the watchful eye of those more experienced technicians.
Okay, so still learning as you go, but you've got a little more freedom to test those skills. What kind of tasks would a junior technician be doing on like an average day?
Okay, picture this. A cruise ship is about to set sail, but the entertainment system in the main lounge is totally down.
Uh-oh.
And it's the junior technician's job to figure out why the sound system is blasting opera instead of those top 40 hits, and they need to do it like yesterday.
Talk about pressure. I can definitely see why this guide lists problem solving as a key skill.
Yeah, and it's not just about fixing what's broken, right?
Yeah.
A good junior technician is thinking ahead, anticipating those problems before they even happen.
Okay.
And that's where those critical thinking skills come into play.
So it's this balance of the hands-on technical stuff, but then also being able to really think critically, analyze those situations, maybe even save the captain from a meltdown because the karaoke machine's broken.
Exactly. And as you go up the ranks to become an experienced technician, those problem-solving skills not only get more and more important.
This is where you start really calling the shots, right? You're mentoring those junior technicians, you're leading those installations, maybe even designing like custom solutions for those unique problems that come up.
You got it. The guide actually gave an example of an experienced technician who designed a whole wireless communication system for a research vessel,
Wow.
operating in like a super remote corner of the world.
Mhm.
Talk about thinking outside the box, right?
That's amazing. I can only imagine the level of expertise you need for that. One thing that really stuck out to me was how much the guide emphasized adaptability.
Yeah.
It seems like that's a big thing in this line of work.
And for good reason, right?
Yeah.
The marine industry, it's always changing. New technology is popping up all the time. So a good technician needs to be a lifelong learner, always curious, always up for learning new skills and finding new information.
They actually had this whole chart in one of the guides about emerging marine technologies, and I gotta say, it was pretty mind-blowing.
Oh, yeah.
Stuff like autonomous ships and underwater drones, even systems that can predict when equipment is about to fail before it happens. It was like something out of a movie.
It's crazy to think about, right? But that's also what's so exciting about this. As all this tech becomes more common, the role of a marine electronics technician is going to keep evolving too.
So you're not just keeping up with the times, you're actually ahead of the game.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that brings us to the top of the mountain, the senior marine electronics technician.
Okay.
This is where it gets really good.
Okay, so now I'm picturing someone with years of experience, probably a few scars from some close calls with those high voltage systems, but like a look in their eyes, like they've seen it all. What's an average day like for a senior tech?
So forget the toolbox. At this point, you are the go-to expert, the one everyone turns to when those really complex systems decide to have a mind of their own.
Yeah.
Remember that crazy blueprint we were talking about earlier? A senior technician could probably redraw that thing from memory while explaining like quantum physics to a seagull at the same time.
Okay, maybe not the seagull part, but I get what you're saying. So we're talking leadership, mentorship, maybe even a little bit of that Jedi Master vibe.
Exactly. The guide described it as being like the conductor of technology, overseeing projects, managing the team, making sure everything runs smoothly. It might even be consulted on the designs of new vessels. That's how valuable their expertise is.
Yeah. So reaching that senior level is like joining this elite group of like tech-savvy mariners who keep the ships afloat.
And they get a lot of respect for that. But even those super experienced senior technicians, they started somewhere, taking those first steps on the ladder.
Which brings us back to those certifications we talked about earlier. The guides really hammered those home. They seem super important for anyone who's serious about this.
Think of them as your golden ticket, right? They prove you've got the skills and knowledge to make it in this field.
Okay.
They show employers you're the real deal.
So you're saying even the experts, they need to prove themselves. What is this, like a Mensa test for the ocean?
Not quite, but the guide does talk about one certification in particular, the CMAA.
CME. What's that stand for?
Certified Marine Electronics Technician. It's like the gold standard, and it comes from the NMEA, the National Marine Electronics Association.
Okay.
They're basically the authority on all things electronic out there on the open water.
So if you get that CMA certification, it's like getting their stamp of approval. You've got the skills to handle any electrical problem on a ship.
It tells employers you're not just good with a screwdriver, you really know the ins and outs of those complex marine electronics.
Which probably means you get paid a lot more too, right?
Lots. You know it. The guide even had this chart comparing salaries. And let's just say those with the CMNT certification were definitely making bank.
Makes sense. It's like the difference between having your basic sailing license and being a certified captain. One gets you on a boat, the other one puts you in charge.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And speaking of being in charge, remember all those new technologies we were talking about?
Yeah.
Those are going to be a game changer for this line of work.
Yeah, all that automation stuff. I'm still wrapping my head around all that, honestly.
Yeah.
Are we going to have robot crews and ships sailing themselves across the ocean?
It's not sci-fi just yet, but we're getting there.
Ah.
One of the guides even mentioned a company that's building completely autonomous cargo ships.
Wow, so no crew at all, just a bunch of computers steering this giant ship across the ocean.
Pretty much.
That's wild.
Yeah.
But it makes you wonder, if ships are becoming more automated, what happens to the marine electronics technicians? Do those robots need their wires checked too?
That's the million-dollar question, right?
Yeah.
And this is where it gets interesting. The guide actually suggested that instead of replacing technicians altogether, automation is probably going to change what those technicians do day to day.
So instead of being replaced by robots, they'll be working with them, kind of like becoming experts in those automated systems.
You got it. Picture this. You're not just fixing a broken circuit board anymore. You're looking at data from the ship's AI captain, trying to figure out why it decided to set sail for Atlantis.
Okay, that's a whole other level of expertise. So now it's not just about understanding electronics, it's about understanding how those electronics work with like software and artificial intelligence.
Exactly. The technicians of the future, they're going to need to be comfortable with software, data analysis, maybe even a bit of coding.
So it's safe to say that people who are ready to learn and adapt, those are the ones who will be successful in this field.
100%. The guide even mentioned that there are special training courses popping up just for technicians who want to specialize in this new stuff. Yeah. Talk about job security.
So not only is this career path already exciting and challenging, but it's also evolving, creating new opportunities to learn and grow all the time.
Exactly. That's what makes it so interesting. It's not a dead end. There's always room to move up and specialize in something new.
We've covered a ton of ground today, from figuring out those complex blueprints to navigating the future of automation in this field. If you had to sum it all up, what would you say is the most important thing for our listeners to remember?
That's easy. Working with marine electronics isn't for everyone. It takes technical skills, problem-solving skills, and the ability to adapt to whatever new technologies come along. But for those who are up for the challenge, it's an amazing and rewarding career path, and you definitely won't be bored.
Couldn't have said it better myself. There you have it, folks. Everything you need to know about becoming a marine electronics technician, straight from those RoleCatcher guides. But keep in mind, this is just the beginning. There's a whole ocean of information out there. Do your research, explore the possibilities, and who knows, maybe we'll see you out on the open water one day working on those high-tech systems.
Yeah, good luck out there.
And until next time, fair winds and following seas.